exclusive, first ever, valued up. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Valued Up Podcast, episode 6. Here we are in a different background, different scenery, different place, and boy, does it feel good to be in a different place.
Does it feel good? You want to tell them where we're at?
We're over here in Clearwater Beach, Florida. We've been out here for the last 5-6 days, just being intentional with a vacation, work trip. Value Ship Consulting Group sent us out here to come and do some good work, and so it's been a great time. It hasn't been probably about a year since I've last been out here, but I've came out here for the last, every summer of my
since you were young.
entire
put it in perspective.
Yeah.
Tell me if I'm wrong, but the pool here is where you learn to swim.
I learned to swim here, and so here we are.
Back full circle,
back full circle. Yeah. Posted up in the condo, but it's your first time
My
here.
first time. That's why we had to get out here and step away from the
What are your thoughts about Paradise, man?
Dude, it's lovely. It's be able to step away from DFW area, so obviously that's home base. Beginnings of summer, picking up almost triple digits out there, so to be able to step away from that to come to the beach, the pool, just everything that Florida has to bring, especially the Clearwater area. Absolutely love it, man.
Yeah.
But love the fact that we can step away from the grind, like I said, the 9 to 5 a little bit, but still be able to turn on the camera, still be able to be intentional with our time. And that's exactly what we was doing, was able to hit a reset. We had hit a little bit of a wall, when it came to just podcasting, when it came to our business as a whole. We hit some growing pains, and
Right.
to be able to hit that reset button, have some fresh mindset, be able to collab together with dedicated time, have that valuable time to get things into place was key more than anything, man.
Yeah, and how this came out to being like coming out here on this trip was just a conversation between us, and it was just like, hey, I think we need to take some time, get rid of all the distractions, and really hone in and focus and draw out some things to where we can have more time together without the distractions, without life, the monotony of everything that really takes away so much brain power. Come here for about a week and just hone in, focus, and we would have little different sessions of like work and then relaxation, because we're intentional, right? We're gonna get the most out of life holistically while we're out here. And even in those multi-hour sessions, we got so much done. We were so intentional because we could take that and focus, but we did it from a relaxed and reset place.
Generated.
Yeah, man. So we could, our brain power wasn't diminished from the day that we already had. But we had that conversation, and we're like, yeah, let's do that. Let's make that happen. And it's great and definitely worth the investment.
Oh my gosh, yes. From a business standpoint, that's one of my favorite things, is when you own a business, things become a tax write-offs, right? So life operates a little differently. So we can kind of not necessarily afford from the standpoint of having cash in your pocket, but afford the investment back into our company, back into ourselves out here. Because like you were talking about, man, we hit a plateau, and it's hard to get out of a plateau. It's hard to do that when you're going through the monotonous 9 to 5. You're balancing life with your full-time job, and it's hard for us to collab, to get our schedules together, to devote time dedicated, hours dedicated to the business. So to be able to get out here, buy back that time. And I just got to tell you, what excites me more than anything about this whole trip is this is literally the life that I'm ultimately trying to live.
Yeah.
This is why we're doing what we're doing. This is why we jumped into entrepreneurship in the first place, was to live a life where you're not almost living 2 double lives. You know what I mean?
Right.
Where you have your career life and then your family life over here. It's like, now, if we could build and create a life where we can blend it all together, where we can just pick up and travel at any time notice, be able to build our business no matter where we're at, right? In front of a camera, in front of a computer, and just pick up and go. Grow no matter where we're at, and that's the ultimate venture. So whenever I get a taste from this, we're about to catch a flight home here in a couple hours, and it's always bittersweet being able to have to say bye. Like, I'm going back to the grind, going back to this, but I say that to say, man, this is always that snapshot of what our future looks like. And that re-centers our why in the first place.
Yeah.
Now I'm excited to get back and just go even harder, to grow, to be more intentional with our time, so that this can not be in a far future, but in our near future.
Absolutely, man. It's just, it sucks leaving. Because I don't want to go back, exactly, right? But man, it's good to go back because it's that gut punch to get you continue to stay focused and disciplined, even a way to get motivated, right? Like, yeah, it's that gut punch, but use that frustration as motivation to stay disciplined, to get you to where you actually want to go. And that's why this week has been so great, so needed. We talked about it going into this week of like, yeah, this is going to be a big turning point for us, because it helped us lay some intentional foundation building points for not just Valued Up podcast, but Value Ship Consulting Group. And that's really both are the focus, but what we really needed to map out. We also needed to talk about some creative things, and when it came to the podcast, what we want to do with the YouTube. And it was a challenge, and it always is going to be a challenge of learning and growing and elevating. But it's been great to just sit, talk, and have that time.
Yeah, because what you don't really realize about entrepreneurship until you're really in the thick of it, and I'm sure all my business owners, entrepreneurs, or even if you're doing anything, side hustles.
You're just leveling up, period.
Leveling up, period. What you realize is the more that you begin to learn and grow and know, the more that you don't know. And so things start piling, layers upon layers. Things come up left over here. Once you acknowledge this and can get this under track, something pops up over here. And it's like there's multiple layers that you have to devote time to.
Yeah.
And when you're just a couple of entrepreneurs starting from scratch, building the basement, and we're wearing all the hats, that's why we have to devote over here. We're stretched very thin because this is what we're allotted at this time. We're wearing all the hats. So to be able to have this dedicated time to, spray and hit everything all in one allocated time frame, it was so phenomenal. To get some momentum, to put our foundation together is exactly what we did. Was for Value Ship Consulting Group. We was able to put that together, man. You know what I mean? And it was just fun.
Well, it's so funny, right? Like, people think, like, everybody is preaching on like hustle culture, which I yes, hustle, grind hard, but nobody can hustle forever, right?
Yeah.
Like, you just don't have that much bandwidth or endurance to do that, right? So it's important to reset and refocus, which, you know, you're taking a step back, but ultimately you're taking a step back, not pausing, but you're taking a step back so you can take such a leap forward, right? Like, think about like infants, right? When they're born to 2 years old, they experience some of the greatest growth that human beings experience. Their body changes so much, but they sleep so much of that time. Yeah. And I think it's because they are asleep that contributes to so much of their growth. And that's what this trip is. And that's how I've looked at it, is like, yeah, we're not in the grind, but, you know, we still put in the hours. We were intentional with the time that we did have. And oh my gosh, it's so easy to just like wake up and like focus on things when you know you're like 15 minutes from the beach and you're like, I'm about to hit that later today, so let me just get in, let me focus, or hit it on the front end like we did today, hit the beach on the front end, and now here we are shooting a pod, and we're about to jump on a plane and go back and get back into the grind, which is awesome, you know. But this is important because, you know, talking with Ryan prior to the pod is like, all right, well, you know, what are we going to talk about in that pre-production meeting? And one of the things that we've even talked about from episode 1 is just being transparent with not only ourselves, but with the audience. And because we are building multiple things, right? Where content is a whole new thing for us, business to some degree, but like, content is just so different for us.
Yeah. And
trying to find our authenticity within it, with building Valued Up and what we want to do with that in that direction has been fun but challenging.
Yeah, exactly. And to let y'all in, you know, behind the scenes, because we've spoken transparency, and I think transparency is the number one thing that can add value more than anything. I mean, if you're in a relationship or if you're doing really anything in life, what human beings yearn for the most is reassurance, right? And so people can think about theory or talk about theories all day. This is how you do this is how you do this. But people learn from other people's failure points more than anything. So they can turn around and look at themselves like, okay, this is familiar. I am doing the wrong thing. I just need to keep going, right? And we say that to say that that's what led us up ultimately to come out here, because we hit our first real ceiling, right? We came to the wall of, like you said, the content creation, but ultimately the identity and the direction that we wanted to take. And it was hard to kind of really hone that in and see what we really felt with all of life that was hitting us at the same time.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it was one of those things where it was like, yeah, we were kind of beating our head against the wall. Do we want to do this? Do we want to do this? And it was a struggle, right? And that led us to what I was talking about earlier, was because you know, we finally hit this point because we felt comfortable turning on the camera, right? Before we started the podcast, we got all the equipment, we learned the logistics. So the next ceiling that you hit was turning on the camera, recording your first episode. Yeah. Obviously, this is episode 6. We got the flow down, we got the efficiency down, veterans. Pretty much everything down, into where it was like, okay, let's really dive into our content bag. Are we sitting here? Are we providing the most value that we can to our audience? And it's like, well, what is our ultimate key target audience? Yeah. And if you go to YouTube University for content creation, you know, people talk about niching down and really finding your key market and honing that in. And, you know, for us, it was kind of that frustration point where it was like, okay, well, obviously our leadership consulting group, we're leadership based, we're value driven. That's what this podcast is. But we didn't want to lose ourselves in that. You know, when it comes to our personality, when it comes to us being us. And if you look at leadership as a whole, jump on LinkedIn, you know, it's everybody in a suit, top-notch professionalism, doing this theory, doing this ideology. Yeah. And that's not us. We wanted to bring a whole new flavor to the game of leadership. And we looked at it as taking the torch. Okay, that's what we really figured out, you know, this today on this trip. Going forward with the podcast is we're taking the same mindset. We can be professional. I mean, we wear the suit as well, you know what I mean? Yeah. That's not what we're saying we're stepping away, but we're in a new generation. Let's be the one to put that on our back and, you know, get the torch handed at us from the previous generation, from the John Maxwells, from the Grant Cardones, from the, you know, Simon Sinek's. Let's take that torch, bring it to the next generation who could relate a little more to it, and not, you know, typically lose ourselves, because that's the end game within anything, is we are our own personal brands.
Yeah, and, you know, we ultimately know big picture what we're doing, right? But when big picture comes into play, there's obviously resources that are necessary to get you there. Well, as we're building Value Ship Consulting Group, you know, we're in that foundation building stage to where we're not even offering products. We're not even offering, you know, offers to clients at this moment in time, May 2024. That's shortly going to change, but coming up with the direction, just like Ryan was talking about, was interesting, in just finding our place as, you know, I call it us being the middle child. And what I mean by that, we're the middle child in our niche of leadership and management, is because, yeah, we know how to be professional. We've been in corporate environments. We can talk
military, top notch.
Yeah.
Full-bird colonels.
Yeah,
suits,
National Security Council, right? Yeah. Like White House leadership. We've been there. We've done that. So, we, like, yes, we can be in that environment and still be ourselves, but so there's the people that have been at their careers for 20, 30 years, but we can also tailor and impact and influence the young people that are in their, you know, first year of their career, right? Like, we're not older, but we're not super young. So that's why I say we're in that, we're those middle child, those middle children, because we can impact and influence both, and we know how to effectively do that. So, you know, I think that's really where we hone in and just own it, right? Own who we are, what we do, right? We want to stay authentic to ourselves and be authentic leaders. And, you know, when you meet Ryan and Joesph, like, you get us, like, you're going to feel us, because we don't want to pretend to be somebody that we're not. We're not in the box. Like, we never are going to be in that box. We can cater to the box. Yeah. But we want to be as effective as we can, and that's by feeling like we are ourselves.
Yeah, and I mean, you hear it all the time, man. At my corporation, at your corporation, many corporations out there, that's actually one of the main leadership gaps right now is older generation. They're like, I don't even know how to lead the new generation. The new generation, they talk different. They have a new mindset. It's always the old adage since the early 1900s. Every generation talks about the next generation. These crazy kids out here, you know what I mean? But it's actually a real problem set. So to be able to bridge that gap, because the last thing that we wanted to do was, again, find ourselves in that box, and then it becomes a job.
Yeah. We're like every other leadership consulting group out there. We're not that. We're very different. Even with the products that we're going to offer is different.
Oh yeah. And that's what I'm more excited about. Anything is bringing that to the forefront. That's what we came out here to do. It's going to be on the horizon. I can't wait to roll it out for you guys to see. But it's just a completely different approach than what everybody's used to. Right. A lot less theoretical ideology and a lot more application based, which is totally awesome.
And even with Valued Up podcasts, like we ended episode 5 last week, and we had a conversation of like, we know where we want to take it for season 2. But we're like, well, we're not at season 2. What do we do with right now? And so, there's going to be a lot of great things when it comes to our YouTube with our media page. And we're going to start transitioning some things from Valued Up to some different forms of content, which I think is going to be super effective, more educational, more leadership management focused. Here on the Valued Up pod, we're still going to focus on adding value no matter what. But we had those conversations of like, what is our identity in this podcast world? Who are we? And
who's our target audience?
Who's our target audience? Who are we? What do we have to bring? And it's a lot of the same things that we just had mentioned with Value Ship and what we're doing in that. But, just owning who we are, owning the market that we do attract and what is attracted to us.
Yeah, and that's just it right there, man. Just have that buying factor, own who you are, and then whoever decides to follow, right? I always said we have a train station mentality, right? Everybody can all aboard. We have a destination that we're getting to. Anything that tries to outrun or get in front of a train, they get obliterated. But this is not a bus route. A bus route never has any type of a destination. It's the same route Monday through Sunday, stop, go, stop, go, stop, go. You get on and go. There's no actually true destination. It's a revolving door. Well, this is a destination. Anybody can all aboard, but if you don't want to, it's all good. It's just we're going to get there no matter what. You might get left behind, but that's who we're looking for, is whoever wants to come, whoever wants to join this community, whoever wants to get fed, feed each other, provide value themselves, you know what I mean? But not taking that approach to such a minute level, like we only can add value to suit-wearing people. You know what I mean? And I say that in a term of that's very broad. Pick up what I'm putting down.
You're gonna offend
but
some people,
in high level professionalism, because typically that's what is synonymous with leadership.
Yeah.
But it's not. Leadership is value. Leadership is influence, as John Maxwell always says. You know what I mean? I mean, look at gangs. Look at South LA, whatever the case may be. They have an organizational leadership structure. Take it for what it is.
How do you know?
Everything is leadership. Leadership is influence. You know what I mean? So just taking that and honing it in. But, with that being said, that's really why we wanted to quickly turn on the camera, even though why we're out here. It's a shorter episode. But the number one thing was to show you guys exactly what we're talking about is following through with the consistency no matter what's happening on life. Even though we stepped out to be intentional out here, we have a podcast to drop every single Friday, and that doesn't change. You know what I mean? No matter what we're doing, where we're at, we got to be consistent with the things that we're doing.
Right, and I think it's important to keep on filming, even with this identity crisis, right? We're 6 episodes in, we have an identity crisis, which is so funny.
But it's relatable.
It's relatable because, right, if you've ever created content, like you've probably gone through this. If you've started anything, you've probably gone through this as well, right? Like January 1st is when people, have their fitness goals. And then by January 15th, they fall off because they hit this wall, right? Previously, we've mentioned that the average person that has a podcast stops before episode 10, right? Like 90% of podcasters do that. Well, here we are, episode 6, and I can guarantee you that people that stop feel this, that we felt, through these previous conversations, that wall. And even though we feel that, we still understand the discipline behind it. And this is why leadership and success principles are relatable to everything else, because we're like, yeah, we feel this, but we still know that we need to record and put something out regardless. And that was a conversation of like, dude, let's just talk about that, because that is so relatable for so many people. But in order to do in order to live a 10% life, you got to do what 90% of people aren't willing to do. And this is it. We're paying our dues. Everybody goes through this in some form or fashion, and we're no different.
Yeah. But I talked about it first. Episode 1 was talking about entrepreneurs jump out of the plane and build a parachute on the way down. You build as your way go. Or as your way down, you build as you go. You know what I mean? And that's the epitome of this. That has never rang more true than where we are sitting right now, and how we learned that and brought it upon ourselves.
Right.
And the ideology behind that is, if you jump out of the plane and you're building your parachute or your plane on the way down, well, you can't take your foot off the pedal. You can't say, okay, let me take a hiatus, get all my ducks in a row, realign myself, and then come back and we'll figure it out. You're going to hit the ground. You're going to smack the ground. You literally learn as you go. So like you were just talking about, staying within our own consistencies, but finding ourselves and keeping on going and, doing this, doing that, but within the framework that we have already established.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Because people wait to get good before they get going. And it doesn't ever work like that, right? You get going, then you get good, and you're never good. You have to keep on going, and that's just the path and the journey of success. You have to continuously learn and grow, and just like you're talking about, you hit those different ceilings, right? Like you get to one ceiling, you're like, well, I don't know how to do this. So you got to learn and educate even more. And you're like, well, I don't know how to do this, and learn and educate more.
But you know why you don't know how to do that? Because you know what the secret is? The secret,
hold on, you give the secret?
The good always lives on the other side of what we're talking about. You're never going to get good until you grow through these pivotal ceilings. Until you grow through them, get to the other side, that's when you get good. Exactly. And that's why you said people don't get going until they get good. Well, if you don't go, you will never get good.
Yeah, because they stop here. They're like, and
that's what I'm saying. It's
good.
not actually the going that gets you good either. It's the growing through what is going to come up along the way, and then you get on the other side of that, and that's where the good comes from. But if you stop right there at the pivotal point, we hit our crossroads. That's exactly what this is. Everybody hits that initial crossroads. Yeah, crossroads, shout out Bone Thugs. But everybody hits that initial crossroads, and they veer left, or it's a stop sign for most people, you know what I mean? We just got it. Over here it looks like choppy waters. It looks like, mountainous territory. I don't even know if our vehicle can handle it. But we're going to go off-roading, bro. Yeah, they I
don't know what's going on right now.
But they'll grow if they get on the other side of it, if they keep going. But hey, man, we got to off-road it, and we got to get to that destination.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And you can't take your foot off the pedal either, because you just have one life, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why it's so important. We were talking about this earlier about just do it. You gotta just do it so you can get it, right? We're leaving back to Dallas. Love Dallas, but nothing beats the beach, okay? Just personally, I'm a beach guy, right? Nothing beats the beach, so you just gotta do it. You gotta endure through those times of uncertainty, or I don't know, or stress, so you can get to the other side and go live the life that you want to. Because we could just be like, all right, yeah, I guess podcasting isn't for me, right? And that can affect so much. You don't know what that can do for the rest of your future, but you just do it. You got one life,
man. Yeah, whether the beach is your destination, everybody has their own final destination that they want to get to. Final destination.
Holy crap,
when you hit the grave, man. But so many people have a final destination deep down that lives inside of them, whether they want to pass on generational wealth to their children's children, whether they want to live on the beaches of the world, whether they want to travel, whatever that looks like. We only have one life, and that's why you said we just have to go after it.
Just do it.
Put everything aside and worry about it on the back end.
Yeah. Don't tell yourself that you can't.
We can never go back into the womb and reappear as toddler or as infants. Nobody reappears as toddlers initially, but we can never go back into the womb, reappear, and start our life over.
Right.
You know what I mean? We only have one life. We have to go after exactly what we want. There's no reason not to. And it's these trips, it's putting ourselves in this type of environment,
and these conversations
that re-equips our why. It gets our why right back to the forefront, like, okay, we got this. Like, we hit the wall for a little bit, we back on the train station, and we're gonna ultimately get to our destination.
Yeah, like, I agree
And well,
with everything
I love the
that
thing
you
that
said,
you're talking about,
because
just
it's
do it, man.
transparency. And like, these conversations are so important because we know how relatable that they are, and it's okay to feel this way, but keep on going, keep on doing.
Just keep on doing, man. Just do it. That's why we wore both of our Nike shorts.
Yeah,
Man. We
exactly.
on our just do it mentality unintentionally, but that's how intentionally
we got the
are.
shoes too.
Got the Nikes too. But yeah, so that's why we ultimately just wanted to quickly jump on the camera to show y'all to what it looks like to stay on your consistent game.
I want to say one thing with this of just transparency and like finding your way through this feeling and going back to just do it. Like, you owe it to yourself, right? Like, there's so much life to live on the other side of those things, right? You stay in your comfort zone and it traps you. You stay within that box, and you get kind of that feeling in your head of like, I know I can do more, but I'm not willing to go outside of that. But like, that feeling is you telling you, it's your subconscious understanding how much value you have inside of you. Exactly. And it's something is trying to speak to you. You don't have to have all the answers to get going to make it happen, but you got to go and just freaking do it.
Chase the dream.
Because if you you got to start to learn to tell yourself that you can, and that rather than you can't. You tell yourself you can't, you're going to believe yourself. Yeah. You tell yourself you can, you're also going to believe yourself. I'd rather be positive with myself, right? You got to learn how to talk to yourself. But I think episode 3 is, episode 4 was when we were talking about changing your thoughts and then your words, and that changes your whole entire destiny. If you just understand that, your whole life will change, because in these moments, you've already rebuilt and reprogrammed your mind. It's like, it's okay that I don't have the answers. I know I'm going to find those answers. Where I'm going to find those answers, I have no idea. But I don't look at this as like I'm going to fail. I don't look at valued up as failing. I don't look as value ship as ever failing, because we're in control of it. And I know me, and I know you. And when we're in control of the ship and we can steer it in whatever direction we need to take it, I know by just doing it, I'm going to go and get it, right? And it's so important, like I said, to reprogram your mind, and starting with your thoughts. Because you'll just stay stuck, and time will pass you by, and then that feeling will stay in your head, and you'll keep on being frustrated that you're not in the destination that Ryan was talking about.
Well, you're either going to follow your mind, or you're going to be the dictator of your mind.
Yeah.
And if you're going to loosely follow your mind, you're going to go through the ebbs and flows and the journey of emotions.
Right.
You know, there's not that proper destination. Versus if you're the dictator of your mind, if you've already made up your mind and where you're going in life, your body will follow no matter what. So if you're just following your mind and you're not intentionally programming it to where you want to go, if you're not casting vision, if you have not made up a decision in your mind before you got going, your body's going to follow those emotions, where ultimately there is no pinpoint. There's no actual destination. It's going to be a valley of ups and downs with absolutely going nowhere. It's that bus route mentality that I'm talking about, whereas if you can turn around and be the dictator, then you're constantly feeding positivity. You're constantly feeding self-belief. You're programming the roadmap of what it takes, and then your body will get there. It doesn't matter the speed in which you get there, as long as you take one step after the other, one step after the other, one step after the other, you will actually go. But that's if you dictate where you're actually going in the first place, man.
And those foundation building stages take the longest. I mean, we've had the podcast for 6 weeks. And here we are, right? Like, it's been a steady climb, right? But in the next 6 weeks, it's going to be totally different. Just like as in the next 6 weeks, value ship is going to be on a whole nother level in terms of just the business side, the product side, the offer side, everything that we're doing with it from leaving here. Time is going to pass you by no matter what. So take advantage of that time for yourself, so you can actually do what you want to in life.
Yeah, time's valuable, man. But our time is up, because we got to
get
to the airport.
I'm just kidding. Yeah, and no, we got to go.
With that being said, appreciate y'all for tuning in. As always today, again, scenery brings the change of scenery is the change of everything. So just wanted to change up the conversation, give a little behind the scenes, let y'all know that it's okay to hit those failure points.
Exactly.
It's okay to have those frustrations. It's okay to lose kind of the sight of what you're doing in the first place.
Yeah, we just want to be that inspiration for somebody of like, we don't got it all together, but we're still doing it.
But yeah, if we're going to be value driven, we know the epitome of value comes from your own examples, right? Like I said, we're not going to get in front of the camera and ever preach, theoretical ideologies, pretending like we already have it together. People, not everybody relates to that. That's good information for educational purposes. But I know on the other side of the camera, I tune into people that are sharing these type of conversations, sharing their stories, because I can relate to it and it makes it okay for me. Like I said at the beginning, everybody just wants reassurance, and I truly believe that this is what it brings. That, hey, we're stumbling too. As long as we're not fumbling the bag, we can ultimately get to, but you're gonna stumble. It's like toddlers learning to walk for the very first time. That's their new journey. You're going to stumble and learn to walk on any new endeavor that you're going to achieve. And that's what we're doing. We're stumbling, we're falling down, we're getting back up, we're stumbling. And then before you know it, we're running a marathon. And that's why the journey is a marathon in the first place. So with that being said, you got anything else, my dude?
The marathon continues.
Hey, well, I appreciate you. Again, thanks for tuning in. We hope that you took a lot out of today. We just wanted to bring that raw conversational piece, and I feel like we accomplished it. So with that, hey, always appreciate you, brother.
Boom.
Stay valued up.